Welcome to our video. I would like to talk about a cultural development program. When we conduct cultural development programs or facilitate or consult and coach, then we have aspects of course, the actual culture and then the future culture they want to reach, and then of course the gap and the transition towards those future cultures in terms of more customer orientation or more innovation orientation, or right now everyone is talking about agile culture, organizational culture, etc. We are trying to find out the actual culture by checking their documents, by checking their websites, by checking by observing the organizational members, by observing a management team meeting, for example, or a town hall meeting of a company, to get a sense for the culture. How do they communicate? How do they get into relationship? And how do they act in their roles of managers, of experts, of white collars, blue collars, etc. And one piece of this actual culture, the right now culture, to check it out, is to conduct interviews. We start with the CEO, with the management team, with the extended management team, and then we go to a field of managers, white collars, blue collars, and we try to see the whole elephant, so to say, the system with their bits and pieces, with their subcultures, of course, which is nothing worse, but those subcultures of production, of development, of marketing and sales, of finance department, etc., or HR department, are part of a whole, of a general system, the company as a system. But it's important that those subcultures, if they exist, that they are aligned in a way under a roof of vision, mission statement, and cultural values. And if we conduct cultures, we then ask questions like, how do you see the actual situation of the company in terms of, or we ask what comes up first in your mind, or which feeling comes up, or which thoughts are coming up if you think of your culture, of your company, and of your culture of the company. Then we ask, how would you describe, the second question, how would you describe your existing culture, company culture? Then we listen, of course, we let them talk. And the next question, the third question, is which cultural challenges do you see? Fourth question is which cultural strengths and competencies do you see? This is an important question, because we are celebrating, in a way, respecting the strengths, the competencies, and not only looking at problems or difficulties or issues. Sometimes interviewees, people who we are interviewing, are surprised when we ask them suddenly about the strengths, about the competencies, because they think we are asking analytical questions, looking for the dark side of the enterprise, for problems, searching for issues, etc., which we don't do. So we just try to figure out the whole system, or parts of it, of course, because it's not easy to get it as a whole. So we have bits and pieces, and then we try to bring it together to say, how do we think after conducting those interviews, checking documents, living in the organization for a while by observing meetings, etc., or role behavior openly by observing. I don't mean by sitting at the corner or staying at the corner and watching people, and that's not our point. Taking part, being part of it, and also giving feedback afterwards, after we get our observations. But by the way, organizational observation is a methodology which is an interesting book you can read. So the next question is looking into the future. Which culture or target culture do you think is needed to continue the success of the company, if the company is successful? If not, you can ask which culture is needed in order to survive in this market with these competitors, or in order to compete with others, or be attractive for employees in the market, personnel market, or for customers, clients, etc. So looking to the future culture, which values are needed, how, or we can ask, how would you see the culture in 5 years? Which culture should you have to develop? Then the sixth question is looking a little bit more deeper into the leadership culture, because of course we say leadership is very important for developing of culture in terms of role model, in terms of creating subcultures, in terms of decision making, leadership style, etc. These are very important components or communication aspects in terms of developing a culture. So we discuss a little bit about this leadership culture in general, not specific persons. We ask in general. We can even ask a little bit closer by asking, how do you perceive the board of directors or the extended management team or the managers as a whole? How do you think the company is managed, or how do managers manage in the company and lead people? So what are the priorities? How do they look at, what do they measure, what do they like, what do they don't like, etc. Then the next question is expectations towards this cultural development program, or we asked anything else, do you miss any questions, or we can also ask, what do you expect from us as facilitators or from the internal facilitators, etc. And then we check those interview process, which should be around, let's say, 45 minutes, 30 minutes minimum with employees, to 45 minutes with leaders, a little bit more, because their perspective is wider, should be wider, and their role in terms of culture development is important. That's why we involve them stronger. And those interviews are not only important for getting information, but also for sensitivity training for the people, that they start to think of the culture, that they start to think in terms of values and future culture, and that they are involved and informed, and they can ask questions. What do you do with those interview results? We explain them. At the beginning, of course, we bring a definition of a culture, especially when there are, let's say, people who are not dealing always like managers do, hopefully, with cultures, with values, etc. We have a definition. We say, we understand culture in terms of blah, 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 a pattern of behavior or a set of values of a company or the DNA of a company, whatever. So there are a lot of definitions of culture which you can take from Edgar Schein, for example, or Henry Mintzberg, etc. And then at the end we asked, and this was important for a board of director member, what do you think about this interview? Do you like it, or what is your feeling? To figure out if the person likes the process, this participation part of the culture program, development program, because taking an interview, being involved in an interview, because we can't talk to everyone. So we select those people in terms of, let's say, gender, in terms of generation, in terms of different functions, in terms of hierarchy. So we try to figure out a diverse group of people. Here in this company, for example, we take around 10 to 15% of the employees and we talk to them. 10% is okay, I think, to get some significant information about the actual culture, the future culture, and the process. Thanks for listening, and all the best.